Second Temple period, the main settlement in Jerusalem was in the Western Hill, which is located west of the Temple Mount, and in the city of David, located south of the Temple Mount. Very few entered the city from the east, from Mount of Olives and its surroundings. The Mishnah, which is a written collection of the Jewish oral tradition, describes the 5 gates of the Temple Mount as follows. The 2 Huldah gates are at the south, used for entry and exit. Kiponus in the west, used for entry and exit. Tadi at the north, not used. The eastern gate, on it, Shushan capital shape, through which the high priests take the cow and all required to burn it on Mount of Olives. The eastern gate of the Temple Mount is called Shushan Gate, or the Eastern Gate. There are several explanations for the name Shushan. The first is following the shape of the city of Shushan, which was the capital city of the Persian kingdom. That is, either its shape or engraved style decorations on the city gate, whether it was on the walls of the gate, its ceiling, or its pillars. Another option is that the gate was named so by order of the Persian Empire as a gratitude to King Cyrus on his declaration in 538 BC. This declaration made it possible for the Jews to return to their land, to the land of Israel, a process known as the return to Zion, and to build the Second Temple in their capital, Jerusalem. Last option I will mention is that the decorations of the city of Shushan on the gate are an expression of gratitude to the community of Shushan who contributed their money to its construction. There are examples as early as the Second Temple period of naming a gate in the donor's name. The Shushan Gate had 2 main roles. The first, the gate was used to take the red heifer, also known as the red cow, to the Mount of Olives, and to burn the cow, so to collect its ashes. A red cow is a cow whose hair is reddish brown in color, and according to the halacha, ancient Jewish laws, its ashes can be used to purify the impurity of a dead person. Without those ashes, there is actually no possibility for the people of Israel to cleanse themselves from the impurity of the dead, and without using a little of the previous ashes, there is no possibility of making new ashes of a red cow. In the Torah, in the book of Numbers, chapter 19, the process is described in details. The process includes, among other things, scattering its ashes on spring water. Then the water is sprinkled in a certain manner on the impure person who needs to dip in the spring and wait to be purified. Second role, taking out through the gate the scapegoat, which is a goat that was sent into the desert during the Yom Kippur service in the temple. A scapegoat is actually one of a pair of kid goats, where one is sent to the desert, taking with it all sins and impurities, while the other is sacrificed in the temple. Who is sent to the desert and who is sacrificed is determined by the high priest. Last point on the red heifer. The Mishnah specified only 7 cows from the days of Moses onwards. This means that most of the time the Shushan Gate was actually closed. Regarding the location of the gate, there are some question marks for its location. The reason for the importance of identifying the location of Shushan Gate in the eastern wall stems from the fact that it is parallel on the east-west axis to the Holy of Holies, which is a term in the Bible that refers to the inner temple where God's presence appears. So a correct identification of the gate leads to the identification of the location of the foundation stone in the Holy of Holies on a north-south axis. This is crucial in identifying the location of the forbidden area for those need to cleanse themselves from the impurity of the dead. In today's situation, we are a dead impure due to the impossibility of being cleansed of this impurity without the ashes of a red cow. Today, only the Gate of Mercy, also known as the Golden Gate, is visible, yet the visible part is from a later period. In the maps depicting the Jerusalem during the Second Temple period, it appears that the eastern wall of the city is the same in its northern part as the eastern wall of the Temple Mount. I am walking along the eastern wall towards the south. The cemetery along the wall is one of 3 Muslim cemeteries that already existed in the Mamluk period, more than 2,000 years after King David's period. We are on our way to the southeast corner. Originally, the wall extended south on the slopes of the Kidron Valley, as described by Yosef ben Matityahu, who noted that the city wall in the east damaged the appearance of the southern part of the Temple Mount. It seems puzzling, since the front of the Temple Mount is this southern wall, and it was precisely this wall that was hidden by a wall that covered it and damaged its appearance. We are tens of meters away from the corner of the eastern wall and the southern wall, and there are 2 important things to see here. The first, see the difference in the wall between the 2 sides. This separating line is named the seam. From the seam to the north, the stone curving are simple and coarse compared to the curvings in the other walls. From the seam to the south, the stones are similar to the other stones of the other walls, both in the curvings and by their edges. The length of the section from the seam to the southern corner is 32 meters out of the 460 meters, the total length of the eastern wall. Before Herod's time, the seam was the end of the eastern wall. At that point, the southern wall began. Apparently, Herod found that the eastern wall of the Temple Mount, built during the Hasmonean days, was built in a high quality and was stable enough such that it was good enough to be integrated into the structure he planned. The strength of this part of the eastern wall compared to the other walls from the Hasmonean era was a very important element in Herod's decision to expand the Temple Mount into the city to the west and not towards the area that were outside the city, even though if he would have carried out the expansion to the east, He would have made the construction process easier, because then there was no need to evacuate residents and purchase land, as was eventually done. The Hasmoneans, whose resources were limited compared to Herod's, invested in the quality and strength of the Eastern Wall, because in their time the Eastern Wall served both as supporting wall of the Temple Mount and as a wall of the city itself. Near the seam there are remains of an arch similar to that of Robinson's Arch. This remains shows that there was an interchange here that included an upper bridge which allowed for movement in the street at the same time, enabling the public the ascent over it. That is, under the arch there was a paved street here that, if that is the case, then our location was then inside the city and the wall is east of here. The archaeologist Meir Ben Dov refers to this street as the Eastern Street. He also claims that the interchange did not reach the level of the Temple Mount and the public buildings, but the level of the vaults below the temple, Mount Plaza. These vaults were used as warehouses and storage rooms that mainly contained the donation and tithes brought by the pilgrims to the temple, especially during the three pilgrimage. This includes sheep, grain, fruit, and many other type of donations. That is for today. And to conclude, as usual, I have a question for you. In which book in the Hebrew Bible the term "return to Zion" is mentioned? The answer will appear in 5 seconds.